Let's talk to the doc, and Dr. Tim McKnight in studio as always on a Tuesday morning. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Brought the sunshine with you today. We appreciate
You're
that
welcome.
greatly.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for that. It's a good feeling. Well, where are we? Week number
6.
Week 6 already of Fit for Life, and this is an important night. You're talking about food,
Right.
something we all need, something we all love, something we sometimes abuse or don't use correctly. Food can be very helpful to your health, and that is, of course, if you're doing it correctly.
Right.
And I guess that's probably one of the biggest problems in this country. We're inundated with restaurants, fast food, this, that, and the other. It's right in front of us. It's hard to ignore. And I think sometimes we overindulge in some of the food choices that are out there.
That's true. And tonight's topic is eat to live, carefully worded to emphasize the point that we're eating to live, we're not living to eat. So the foods that we eat should be nutritious and healing as opposed to just always satisfying for a craving.
And I mean, you think in your world, being a family doctor, that you're in the medical world with all these high-tech medicines out there, but food can be used as a medicine as well, because it does have healing powers. If you're eating the right things, it's going to make your body respond, and you're going to feel good. It's just kind of a win-win, but sometimes we don't remember that. Go back to your elementary school and middle school health classes. You went through all this stuff with nutrition and calories and food, but like I say, and you walk out into the real world and there's all these billboards of try this, and you see these photos of these gigantic burgers and everything else.
Right.
It's easy to not eat what's the best for you.
And Hippocrates said it well a long time ago. He said, "Let food be thy medicine," and it couldn't be any simpler than that.
Yeah, and you talk about one of the things I remember from the Fit for Life class. When you eat, look at the different colors. I mean, you've got bright colors with vegetables and fruits and nuts. Mix up that palette of colors, and more than likely that's going to be giving you the vitamins and nutrition that you need.
It's a pretty simple way to look at it, but that's the way it should be. And one of the things, tonight's lecture has to be changed up a little bit. I've learned some new data, some new research that I've been exposed to, and I need to modify this particular lecture because I think we're a little bit off in some of the recommendations that we had. And so based on some recent lectures that I've heard and some material I've been exposed to, we're going to change it a little bit, and it's not going to be grazing and nibbling through the day. Mm-hmm. One thing that was very apparent to me is that the research clearly shows that eating less and exercising more never works. Mm-hmm. It works maybe short term, mm-hmm. but you always gain the weight back.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't see the Biggest Loser reunion, because they've all gained it back.
Well, I kind of found that a little bit with the low carb diet. I'm struggling at times to feel full or to keep that full feeling sustained, and that's a dangerous thing as well, because you tend to eat more when you're hungry like that.
Right.
And that's one of the things I've noticed about the low carb, eating some of the instead of pasta, a veggie based pasta or something like that. It doesn't seem to have the staying power for me to keep me feeling full.
Yeah, and one of the challenges there is when you go low on your carbs, you will feel more hungry if you're eating a lot of vegetables, but what you have to do is get more fat in your diet. Yeah. Fat is very satiating. But something else interesting that we're going to talk about tonight is the fact that intermittent fasting, going 18 to 24 to even 48 or 72 hours without food, over time, the hormone in your brain that's released that makes you say, "I'm starving," mm-hmm. is ghrelin. And if you're overeating and then you put a 6-hour fast in there or a pause from the food, that hormone goes crazy, and it tells your brain and your body, if you don't feed me right now, I'm going to starve to death. It's a powerful hormone. But as you suppress that urge, an hour or two later, that signal dies off and you're not hungry. Mm-hmm. And then a few hours later at the next meal, you get the same release of that hormone, but it's not quite as high, not quite as intense, so the hunger appetite isn't as strong. And the more you fast, and the more you go without food, the less impactful that hormone is. So the hunger goes away over time.
Yeah. And no matter how you slice it, I mean, if you're hungry and you need to eat something, a snack or whatever, grabbing a Snickers bar or Hershey's bar is not going to be as helpful and healthy for you as maybe a handful of nuts or some carrots or some vegetables, that type of thing. So, I mean, the choices are always going to be something you'd really need to stop and think about as you lift something to put it in your mouth.
Right. And as you do this, as you eat green leafy vegetables and nuts and seeds, and as you get healthy fats in your diet, and then you fast intermittently, again, those signals are not going to be as overpowering. You'll have more control. And pretty soon, one of the speakers at the conference a few weeks ago said, when I come home, my husband and I talk about if we're going to eat today, because some days they don't eat. And what's amazing to me is when you go without food, you actually increase your metabolism. And they did a study that said 5 days without food gives you a big bump in your growth hormone, which is really healthy for us. And the research shows that you don't lose body mass. You don't lose, muscle mass when you're doing this intermittent fasting. So this is a really effective way to lose weight, to not be hungry. The keto diet, people that do the keto diet have the same experience. They don't feel hunger. When they get to that point when they're really not hungry and they have to almost remind themselves to eat, it's because really what we're doing is we're telling that insulin hormone that, hey, we're not going to secrete you today, but a Snickers bar and cornflakes for breakfast and a sandwich with 2 pieces of bread, all those things increase the insulin release, and it tells your body I'm starving, and it turns on all the fat-making machinery.
It's fascinating. It really is. That was one of the lessons that we had in Fit for Life, was you had us fast for 12 hours or whatever it was. 24 hours. And it was pretty brutal. I mean, I was really hungry.
Yes.
I did have my coffee, which is like life for me. I know that's one of the things you're not big on, but that's kind of my my life supply of. I get that caffeine, and it changes everything else as far as whether I'm hungry or not.
Right.
Our bodies are telling us, they're always signaling what's going on inside of you. So I mean, you gotta listen, and you gotta understand why it's doing what it's doing.
Absolutely. And if we would just listen and suppress those urges that just drive us, and then Fit for Life, we talk a lot about the emotions and the stress and the thoughts that make us think we need to eat to really mask or change an emotion or a thought or a feeling that we're having. And we have to be really intentional about this. But it can be done. And people that do this, they lose weight and keep it off, and they're healthier for it. Another really important molecule that we'll talk about tonight is nitric oxide, which we talked about, I think it was last week or the week before. And nitric oxide is a powerful vasodilator. It dilates blood vessels. And if we eat green leafy vegetables and we're not taking proton pump inhibitors for our acid reflux, we'll make nitric oxide. Exercise will stimulate nitric oxide production.
So if you're taking something for acid reflux, or that's killing that production.
Yes, because the enzyme that the final step in the pathway to make nitric oxide occurs in the stomach, and your stomach pH has to be around a pH of 3, which it normally is. But if you take anything to block that acid production, whether it's Pepcid over the counter, or Tagamet, or you're taking a lot of Tums, or the more powerful proton pump inhibitors, which are prescriptions, now your pH is 7, and you can't make that conversion.
Wow.
So the studies have shown that if you take these stronger medicines for 3 to 5 years, there's a 30% increased risk of heart attack and stroke.
Incredible.
Because you're not dilating blood vessels. So again, that comes back to eating right and exercising. But it's a very, very powerful, simple molecule that we all need.
something to think about. And again, that's the topic tonight: food, eating it for health and staying healthy, and what not to eat, and so forth. Fit for Life. We've had several calls of people listening and wondering about the program. Again, this particular fall session is about midway point, so you can't just jump in, but you'll start another class in January.
Right.
So if anybody is interested, to call Trinity Twin City and find out about Fit for Life, get signed up, and then you'll be ready to go the first of the year.
And I'd say if you're thinking about it, get signed up now so that you're assured a spot in the class.
Yeah, because it does go quickly, and especially that first of the year after everybody's made their resolutions to get healthy and to eat right and exercise, the January session fills up quickly. So call Dr. McKnight and Trinity Hospital and find out about the Fit for Life program. Appreciate the update. We'll do it again next week.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.